So the all-important question, SSL certificates, the nice green bar or the padlocky thing that you see in virtually every browser nowadays, and everybody is banging on that Google gives you a better ranking in its searches for. The million-dollar question is, how do you get the SSL cert? Well, this was supposed to be quite a mix of a techie view and a non-techie view. Unfortunately, the reason I was on the bus earlier is the demo server that I built to demo all this on has blown up. So a lot of it will now be run from my local machine, so you'll have to unfortunately take my word for some part of it. So anyway, moving on. So who am I? I'm an ex-Royal Navy communicator, as you can see by my wonderful picture there, taken about 2000. I then left in 2006, moved on to the European Medicines Agency, where I was an IT support engineer. I then worked for a national ISP for a couple of years, and then I'm an IT and facilities manager for an international tech company. And now, for my sins and the joys of the wonderful internet, I'm the owner, maintainer, tech guru of Red IT. So the all-important question really is, what is an SSL certificate? Well, SSL, or a secure socket layer, is a ratified standard, and it's slowly been replaced by something called TLS, or transport layer security. Both from your level or your standpoint work in exactly the same way. It's just a naming convention and the type of security that we're using to encrypt the traffic between the 2 points. So both are a method of encrypting communications and the connection between your browser or your email client and the server that is processing your information. It doesn't actually encrypt the data on your computer, or it does not encrypt the data on the server. So I just want to be clear on that point. So the olden days, we're only talking, I say the olden days, we're only talking a couple of years ago. What you had to physically do was to create what we called a certificate signing request, or a CSR, and then send it to your certificate issuer. So, for example, GoDaddy, or think of others, Out for SSL, Global Sign, VeriSign, people like that. And you used to have to do that either through the control panel or on the command line itself. Windows was slightly different, that you could actually get IIS to create the certificate or the signing request for you. And then this was done in a multiple stage. So you had to physically take the CSR certificate, as shown here in the begin new certificate request, that long string on the left-hand side of the screen, that, paste it into their portal, and then depending on what type of certificate you're requesting, let's say a couple of hours later, they would issue you with another part of the certificate, which we called the return certificate. You'd then take that along with the intermediate certificate and their root certificate if it was needed, paste all of those onto your server, update your config files, and hope and pray that one of the letters that you'd copied and pasted into your server config wasn't wrong. So the whole process could take you a couple of days because one part of the certificate didn't work, it didn't match, so you'd then have to send that back to the original issuing certificate body, get a new one issued, and the process would keep repeating until you got the certificate work. What we used to call broken chains. Thankfully now there's a little known company called Let's Encrypt that will do all of this for you, and they are a trusted certificate provider. What I'm going to do now is show you the steps very quickly on the command line that allow you to generate a CSR for sending to your certificate authority if you want to do it that way. I'll also quickly show you how to do it with Let's Encrypt using an application called certbot. Certbot works exactly the same way now on Linux as it does on Windows. They've done a lot of work in the last couple of months. They do say it's still beta, but they're basically saying that beta 2 is the stable release. Unfortunately, I've not got a Windows box anymore, so I can't show you it working on Linux. But if I quickly go over to here, sorry, wrong screen, this one. So this, oh, sorry, can everybody see the screen first of all, because that is quite small. Yeah, I can make the text a little bit bigger. Actually, what I'll do is I will very quickly SSL. Oh. 2207. Okay, so I'm now on exactly the same box that I was a moment ago. So to request a certificate signing request or a CSR, we used an application called OpenSSL. So OpenSSL. It's installed on pretty much most Linux distributions out of the box. Sometimes you need to install the additional dev tools. So what you're doing then is you're doing a request or reg, and you're asking for a new certificate. So you want a new key as well. The type of certificate, so in this case we're using the RSA encryption. The length of the key that you want, so in this case it's 248 bits in length, which is pretty much the standard size of an SSL certificate at the moment. Notes, key out. So this is telling the computer where to export your certificate or your key to. I'm just going to call this server.key and then out server.csr. So it's the server CSR file that you would originally have sent to your certificate signing authority. If I just run that, it will then ask you a couple of questions on the details of what this certificate is supposed to be securing. So in this, I'm in Great Britain, so it's GB. UK is not a valid entry. So I live in, what? Oh, wrong way around, so that should have been Hampshire, never mind. Organisation. So that one can be left blank. So the common name is the name of the address you're trying to protect. So in this example, I was going to go my.redit.co.uk. So a new box that I was building up, I wanted an SSL certificate for it. If you enter that, so my.redit.co.uk, the certificate will be issued explicitly for the address of my.redit.co.uk. Now, if I was to put in star.redit.co.uk, it will issue it for what we call a wildcard certificate. So this will issue a certificate that will cover anything at redit.co.uk. So bob.redit.co.uk, ted.redit.co.uk, etc., etc., etc. If I was just to put redit.co.uk, that will issue a certificate for redit.co.uk and www.redit.co.uk. This is a normal issue that comes across when people are requesting certificates. They always put the www, and they only then get a certificate for www. Their domain name. So it's just one to be careful of. So my redit.co.uk. Email address, serveradmin@redit.co.uk. Most people normally put webmaster or something along those lines. but you need it to be a valid address, because when it goes to the certificate signing authority or your root CA, what they'll do is they will probably send you an email saying, did you request the certificate? And they will send it to the email address that you include in the signing request. There's no need to put a challenge password in because you don't need one. Optional company name, again, leave it empty. So that's the end of all the questions that it'll ask you. And if we now have a look at server.csr, I'll just clear the screen a second. There you go. So that's now created a certificate signing request for me to send off to whoever I want to request the certificate from. And I've just blinked that. Oh. For some reason I can't see the chats. I don't know why. So I would then copy all of this, including the dots and the hyphens beforehand. I would go off to my certificate signing authority, paste that in, and as I said, a couple of hours later, they'd either email me asking me for a few more details, or they would issue me with a certificate. Now, unfortunately, because, as I said, I've broken my lab, I can't, well, I could go off, but this isn't a valid domain, so it's not going to work at the moment. So that's the steps that you would take on that. They would issue you back with a certificate. So what you'd then do is you'd create a server.cert file, and you would paste that into there, and you'd also create, that's the bottom of my screen. You'd also normally create a root.cert file and input the root certificate that they'd also give you in there as well. So that's the old way of doing it. Oh, you'd also have to configure whatever engine you were using, so Apache or Nginx or Boa if you're using Boa. So along came Let's Encrypt. Everybody, including myself, I put my hands up, thought, oh, this is going to be a flash in the pan, it will never work, it will never last. And if any of you have read my blog, I think about 2 years ago, I was like, no, Let's Encrypt, don't use Let's Encrypt, it will never work, you know, you've got to do all this, you've got to do all that. And I'm the first to hold my hands up. I've changed my mind. I actually use Let's Encrypt quite a bit myself. Wonderful service. You generally get your certificate in about 30 minutes. Sometimes it's a little bit longer. It depends how busy their infrastructure is. But they've done a lot of work, and it's now done by a two-way handshake. So when you request a certificate, it will come back and either say yes, or please enter this into your DNS records. And 30 minutes later, they'll check the DNS records again, and if the updated records are there, they will automatically issue a certificate. It's a brilliant service. It really is. I can't say it enough. Brilliant. Downside is your certificates are only valid for 90 days at a time. However, you can set it to auto-renew, and you can renew up to, I think it's now 15 days beforehand. So for example, here at Red IT, we've got an automatic process where you request it through the web interface, and every night it just churns away, goes and looks at all the certificates that are coming up for renewal, and it will auto issue you with a new certificate. You don't have to worry about it. A lot of other providers are also doing exactly the same. The latest that's come out of the Let's Encrypt camp, is they're now doing wildcard certificates as well. Whereas before you had to be fully domain specific. So if you wanted to protect your mail, you had to request a certificate for mail.yourdomain or www.yourdomain. That is no longer the case. So they've cleared that hurdle as well. So excuse me, back to actually what we do. No, we'll carry on the way I was going to do it. So using something called certbot, it's not installed by default on your Linux programs or even on Windows. So you need to go to the either the Let's Encrypt website to physically download certbot, or if you're on Linux, you can do it by running the normal repository, which I've already done on this box. So, been attacked by a mosquito. Sorry. So to install it on Linux, it's this is CentOS box, by the way. It's literally just yum install cert. I think it's certbot. Yeah, certbot and Python bot 2. Now, obviously, I can't do this because it's already installed. But if I go like that, it should tell me that it's already installed. Come on. Oh, sorry, my bad. So it's certbot and Python 2 certbot. That's what you get for trying to do it from memory. Apache. You've got to specify the engine you're using as well. There you go. Right. So it's actually told me that everything I'm trying to install is already installed. Beautiful. So then it's literally a case. So I can't type certbot. And then what you're doing, let me just check certbot. There we are. Yep. So certbot, the type of certificate you're requesting, Apache. I'm running Apache here. And then D for the domain that you are requesting your certificate for. So in here, it's my.redit.co.uk. Again, it will request it explicitly for the domain that you enter. Now, the other wonderful thing about Let's Encrypt is you can keep going. So if I wanted, we own multiple domains, so I can go my.redit.net.uk, mysd, my.redithosting.co.uk, d, my.redithosting.uk, and it will encompass all of those into one certificate for you. So you don't have to worry about the renewals for all of those subdomains within that certificate. I'm literally going to do this just for the one certificate as the demo. Clear that for you. What it will do is it will literally try and connect to Let's Encrypt for us. There you go. Right, so again, it's asking for an email address. So server@redit.co.uk. They are a charity-based service, or a not-for-profit, and what they actually do is, if for any reason your certificate does not get renewed 5 days before it is due to, they will email you and say, oh, do you know your certificate's not renewed yet? It's absolutely brilliant. So it goes off and starts a connection, connects to the Let's Encrypt service. It then says, do you agree to their terms and conditions, with a link that you can read. So agree. Another warning, blah, 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 blah. I've already subscribed, so this time I'm going to do no. It then does a challenge. My name is provide a virtual host listening on port 80. Oh. Interesting. Just again. There you go. No, no. Oh, yeah, I know why. Right, okay. Let me start. Sorry. What you can do, I've not set up the virtual host name. So within Apache, it looks explicitly for the address as well. So if you haven't got a valid virtual host, it will just throw an error as it has done. What you can do is, I think it's cert only. Oh. The is it cert only? Oh, there you go. So if you do it as cert only, it will give you the option, and it doesn't need a web server to do it for you. So I'm going to select 2. So it spins up its own Apache CTL. Stop. Let's try that again. 2. There you go. Because I was already using the SSL port. Right. So the error that it's come back with is basically telling me that the DNS records for this domain don't exist. So what I'd have to do is then go to my DNS records, enter a valid DNS record for my.redit.co.uk. Wild entries into DNS don't work. It looks explicitly for the A record that you're putting in. So if I was to do it differently for just redit, that might break. Let's try something else. Let me just find a domain I've not got an SSL certificate for. That might work. That one might work. 2. Oh, brilliant. Right. Okay. So anyway, what it would do is, if it was to work, it would come back with an Acme challenge, which you would then normally put into your DNS records. So if I show you an example, and let me get the records right. I didn't get the Acme challenge. There you go. So it would come back asking you to enter Acme challenge, and it would give you 2 text variables that you would need to enter into your DNS records. What it would then do is, approximately 30 minutes later, is it would look up those records directly on your name servers. If they matched the records they sent you, it would automatically issue the certificate onto your server for you. Now, as I said, you can automatically update your Let's Encrypt certificates through the command line as well. Normally what we do is we add that into a cron job, so it runs, mine pretty much run every day, and that is literally just search bot and renew. There you go. And it tells you that because I've got no certificates at the moment, there's no renewals were attempted. Now, a lot of you are probably going, oh my god, I'm not doing that. Good. Okay. Thankfully, most hosts have a control panel of some form or other. And what's built into most of them is your SSL certificate. Now, cPanel have recently added it into theirs. Unfortunately, it is a plugin. So this isn't a Red IT panel. This is the cPanel actual demo. And it's not actually enabled on their own demo, which is absolutely brilliant. But in here, I can show you how the CSR requests. Oh wow, that wasn't there when I originally logged in. So lots of people have obviously created CSR requests for different domains within cPanel. So then pick on one randomly. There you go. So you'd copy it out of your cPanel and then send that to your certificate authority, and then get back into there, and under your SSL TLS section, you go into your certificates, and again it will ask you to what type of key size you want to create. So you know what size certificate. Generally a 2048-bit key is the required length. So this is all the information that I put in earlier in the command line, and it will go off and generate the CSR for you. When you come to upload, you just then upload the sent back sections into your control panel. Now, to do a Let's Encrypt certificate, I couldn't find a cPanel site that actually had Let's Encrypt already enabled on it. So very quickly we'll do it on here. So here we've got my testing domains, which obviously are valid because they work. So what you do is you go to SSL certificates and click on Let's Encrypt. Most panels are pretty much the same. So it then asks you a couple of questions. Do you want to enable the certificate? Well, yes. Otherwise, what's the point in requesting it? Do you want a wildcard certificate? My recommendation at the moment is pretty much tick it. Even if you're not using it, you never know when you're going to create a subdomain or want to encrypt your mail or anything else, and it's just one less hassle to worry about. The domain that you want to encrypt, so I'm doing testing, it will give it a random name, and then you can select the key length that you want to use. So as I said, 2048 bits are pretty much the standard, or you can go for the new one, which is 4096. Click OK. It then loads, thinks about it for a little bit. Thinks about it for a little bit more. Okay, and then you start getting the logs. So if I go into the Let's Encrypt log now, so it said the issue is in progress. So what it's doing is gathering all the information that it already has or knows about you or your site, and encompasses it, and it's now starting to talk to the Let's Encrypt service for you. Now, as I said, unfortunately, sometimes it can take up to 30 minutes. I'm hoping this isn't going to take 30 minutes. I just need to move you guys out of the way so I can click the refresh button. Because what I really want to show you is it coming back saying that it needs to add the Acme keys. But it may not do it in time. Now, also, interestingly enough, while Paul was actually talking, an email came in from Global Sign saying that all root certificate authorities will stop issuing any SSL certificate for longer than 398 days starting on the 1st of September this year. So that is literally just come in as I was listening to Paul. So that's hot off the press. So in future, you will not be able to purchase a full root certificate for longer than a year. And this is not right. Okay, let's quickly go back to the demo. So that's pretty much the demo done. Just some very quick links for you. You've got the let'sencrypt.org, who are the guys that have written this awesome piece of software that allows you to have a free SSL certificate for 90 days at a time, even though basically you can keep renewing the thing and it will never expire. It's brilliant. Oh, I did just think of another downside is you are not physically able to take a Let's Encrypt certificate from one host to another. They use some form of signing that doesn't let you move the SSL certificate from server to server. And I've not worked out how they've done it yet. They must use a fingerprint type key. But SearchBot as well, the tool that I used in my demo, as I said, a Linux client and now the Windows client. I must admit I've not physically used the Windows client in anger, and a very good tutorial by DigitalOcean on how to use Let's Encrypt with Apache on CentOS. It's probably one of the better tutorials out there. And that's it for this. Any questions? If I can work out how to get the questions or the chat back up.
So having created your SSL certificate, what do you need to do in WordPress in order to make use of HTTPS?
Okay, so pretty much your host will, what better way of doing it? Your domain within your hosting account will now know that it's SSL enabled. So pretty much all you'd need to do is go into your WordPress control panel, go into the settings where you've got your site URL and your home URL. I think I've got the terminologies right there. And change HTTP / your domain to HTTPS. That will then start loading all the content over the secure connection, hopefully.
What happens if a visitor comes to your site and types in HTTP directly?
Okay, yeah, that's a awesome question. Oh, hang on, we've got some traction. So what started happening here? So it's done the authentication request. It's validated it. Oh, so it's already worked out that this is actually a valid domain. It didn't come back saying that it needs to add anything to my DNS, which is a little bit annoying, but never mind. Bad examples. So if I go into testing and edit that, What you can do is you can force the redirection of HTTP requests to HTTP requests to HTTPS, and with us that's just a simple tick. In cPanel, I must admit I didn't actually look for that one, so I would have thought it would be under websites, metrics, security, software, advanced, next page, preferences. So let's try that one. Of course not. This is what you get for using the demo. If anybody knows where it is in cPanel, please just shout out.
All right, but it basically, you put a couple of lines in your .htaccess file.
Yeah, I was going to say, or you can do it directly in your htaccess file. It's literally a rewrite rule. Yes. But again, if you're not familiar on how to do that in your htaccess, just ask and I can chat that over to you. It's literally one line that you need to add into your htaccess file.
Okay, question from Nikki. When I have used photos in my website, it invalidates the SSL.
Right, okay. It's not the photo that's invalidating your SSL. You're probably getting what we call mixed content. So whenever you've uploaded the image, the original address for the photo has been written into the config as HTTP and not HTTPS. There is a plugin, and I can't remember for the life of me what it's called.
Velvet Blues.
Sorry?
Velvet Blues.
There you go. Where it will go through your index and it will find these references and it will change them for you.
Never heard of that one, Steve.
Yeah, it's really good, really useful.
Other people use really simple...
Be careful you get no typos in there, though.
Yeah, yeah.
It can wreak havoc.
The one I would have said was called...
On my site, do you remember, Herb, you found this peculiar thing?
It's not peculiar. Better Search Replace is the plugin that I...
No, you found a sort of block, a hidden block or something.
Oh yeah, you created a media and text block or something, hadn't you?
Do you remember, Scott? I had this problem with you, and you...
I'm trying to remember.
Anyway, it was a sort of hidden media and text block.
Oh yes, I remember now. Yes.
It was calling a little white tile for something.
That's right. Yes.
And I couldn't get rid of it, but Herb found it and killed it.
I don't know.
So once you've done that, basically, and you've got your SSL certificate and everything can be accessed by HTTPS, there might still be things in your website which aren't, and there are a number of different ways of changing the system so that it uses HTTPS rather than HTTP. Steve said Velvet Blues, I use Better Search Replace, and other people have used a plugin called Really Simple SSL, which doesn't actually change the database content, it just changes it as it's being output. Whether or not that would have found Andrew's hidden background image, I don't know, but it's possible to use view source to find out what's come up incorrectly.
Yeah, that's generally the way. Unfortunately, there's nothing in the root folder for testing, so I've got nothing to show you. Actually, I could very quickly knock something up. So let me just go in.
I think we've probably done a bit of overrunning tonight. So
Oh, have we? Sorry,
Yes.
I don't even know what the time is.
9:30.
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry, people. Sorry.
It's really helpful, Scott, and the screenshots have been really good.
Well, if it hadn't all broken on me, it would have been a little bit better.
Right, so all right, any more questions?
Just to go back to one that Scott mentioned earlier, on cPanel it is in the domains icon.
It is. Is it? Right, okay.
There's a selection to enforce HTTPS redirect. So
yeah, that would be the better way of doing it if you've got the option, because you're actually doing it at the Apache or the server level, and instead of it already hitting your domain and then being told to redirect, although depending on SEO, sometimes putting a 301 redirect to say that this has gone away will stop the links from appearing in Google, but I'd still hazard a guess that doing it at the server software level would be the better option. And Paul, oh, you've managed to move certificates, Paul. I might try again then.
Oh, right, Luther. So thank you, Scott, and thank you, Paul, for your talks. I think some people might have thought, what are they typing in on those online things? Much prefer to be able to just do it in the front end and my WordPress site. The admin people would say when we type these commands in, we can automate them and it would be much, much quicker. But they don't know anything about actually using WordPress, which is what we saw earlier on. We, I'm afraid, have sort of run out of time, so we won't be able to go into any more detail on other steps, although there were requests to look at how to add a child theme and what it's all about, and adding a fav icon, which was my request, so we could see if there's something to do for Andrew's website. So now I'm doing a bit of wrap-up stuff. We've now got 187 Meetup members. Yesterday, I took a record count of other meetups, and today updated them and found that someone or some people must have left some meetups, but they didn't leave our meetup yet. There are 113 countries now which have meetups. This next release coming up is WordPress 5.5. We looked at that when we were very early on, when we were playing with the Gutenberg editor, and I was using WordPress 5.5 beta 3. It should be released on the 11th of August, and in September we will try to do a session on what is new in WordPress 5.5. One thing which isn't going to be new in WordPress 5.5 is the navigation menus block, but the automatic updates, block directory, XML sitemaps, lazy loading, and update to latest version of Gutenberg is expected to be included in that. Don't forget, there is a US WordCamp which is online in October. We didn't have a WordPress meetup last week because I didn't organise it, but instead some people went to go and visit Cheltenham's meetup, or Edinburgh's, or Manchester's, or like me, tried all three at the same time, which was almost impossible. The Cheltenham one I didn't need to follow because they were recording it and doing it live stream, and if you want to watch a presentation on customising WordPress with using child themes, there's the YouTube link there. Yesterday, Romford had a meetup where they were going to build the WP Havering website, and Birmingham had a meetup where there was a roundup from Johnny Orbit on news, which is similar to Mike Little's roundup, I believe, and an unspecified talk. This is what we did in 2019, and our plans for 2020 are to go all the way through. Today we've had how to build a WordPress website part 2, the command line method, in 2 steps. Next month we have 3 Germans from the Plugin Collective.
We're just waiting for confirmation from them, but we hope
Right,
they will
we
be.
hopefully have 3 Germans.
Yeah.
Bernard Cow, who we had a couple of months ago, and Torsten Landsiedel and Simon Kraft talking about some plugins which they now support, that were developed by somebody, and now they'll support them because they were fairly popular and they felt it was the right thing to do. Oh my, what's going on? In September, we may or may not combine with other meetups and have a What's New in WordPress 5.5 and how to use it, which will be very much an interactive, here's a bit of WordPress, let's go and see what it's all about. Hopefully we won't have any complaints about it and it will be lovely and we'll all say it's beautiful. But that depends on how we get on with raising any issues we might do. A month later, we're going to have Belinda Musto talking to us about Gutenberg, the block editor, and hope also that should be a fairly tutorial type thing and something about user interface as opposed to how to develop anything using the block editor. Then in November, Abba, can you explain this?
Yeah, we're hoping to have a presentation by Joe Simpson Jr., who was, speaks at, I think he's speaking at US, but he was due to speak at WordCamp Europe on
Right.
plugins. We're just waiting to hear about how the times work for him.
Okay.
And then so that's to be confirmed.
And finally, just before Christmas, we're going to have a seasonal quiz with quiz questions selected from a variety of different sources, including the WordPress marketing team's quiz from a couple of weeks ago, and some social chat.
So if anyone has would like to help with the quiz, then let me know.
And there's the trivia for this thing.
It doesn't have to be WordPress related.
No, hopefully not at all. Well, you said there was only one WordPress thing in your quiz.
There's only one WordPress question, yeah.
Yeah, we might have a couple more. So thank you very much to Red IT for sponsoring our meetups, and also to 34SP. I wrote to 34SP today saying, are you going to renew our sponsorship? We would like to have some things from you because it's a two-way street. And that's about it. Any other closing messages?
I think that's everything. And a big thank you to you, Herb, because you're brilliant at explaining how to raise track tickets and how to deal with things on the editors in general. And we all appreciate you.
Well, I wasn't brilliant because Andrew didn't tell me I didn't say how to log in, but it wasn't.
Thanks
We
everyone.
still think
Great.
Right. Andrew's done an image here of blocks and we've asked Olga if that was what she meant, and she said it's easy if you start and work your way down to creating the blocks, but it's not so easy if you've created some groups and you want to then try to put them inside other groups.
Yeah.
And so
It's not
that's
true.
Huh?
This is
Andrew
not
says
true.
it's not true. So
I do not
probably
take
tomorrow we'll have a Zoom meeting and he'll show me what he means and we'll have a look to see if there's something that can be done.
But if we can, and if we find an answer, we can make a little how-to information. That'd be great.
Yes, you can. And if we were good people, we would write that in the WordPress documentation.
Well, we're producing how-to guides at the moment for the Help Hub, so it'd be great to have.
I can put out a challenge that I can move any block anywhere inside in
Ooh,
Word.
we don't need you to do it, Andrew. We need you to explain how other people can do it.
No, if you say to me, move the blue one inside the red one, you'll see how I do it.
You're a magician.
Exactly.
Mm.
I do it in Photoshop.
Andrew, put
Not
the red and the grey one inside the yellow one.
Not the grey and the yellow one.
Grey and the red one inside the yellow one.
It's already there.
No. You've got one inside one. Put 2 blocks inside one.
I can do that
Next time.
if you want, or I can do it now if you want to hang about.
No, I think we've overrun enough.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Good to see everyone.
Thanks again.
Thanks all. On out.
Right, so we're going to stop recording this, stop sharing it, and then we're going to have some fun editing it all before it's published.
Well done, Herb. And hopefully we
Out
get
the mess in the background.